Hi there. If you're watching this, you've probably come across the video because of a search for RadioBoss. My name's Ken, the Metal Professor, and I do a heavy metal radio show on a little teeny tiny station called WVLP in Valparaiso, Indiana. We are a low power FM station, which means if you drive like half a mile outside of the small city limits, you're going to lose the station. But we stream online too at WVLP.org. And our situation was hopefully soon, that we have been using some automated programming software called, I believe, Disc Jockey? No, I can't remember what it's called. But whatever it was called, it's not supported anymore. And it's running on like a Windows 7 machine, which means if this automated software gives it up, we're toast. So our station manager looked around for another alternative and came up with RadioBoss. And he asked me to help him figure out how to run it, especially given the constraints of our programming day, which may or may not be unusual. How can we adapt this software? So the station purchased a license for the software, and he got it running a little bit, handed it off to me to try to figure out more of the details. So I went online and started searching for RadioBoss videos, and I found a few. A lot of them weren't in English. Which being American, I only know one language, so I wouldn't be able to understand those. And some of the videos were just kind of repetitions of the same thing, like how to load up a couple of different items. So what I'm going to do here is, as I'm learning, I'm going to be making some videos that show what I've learned up to this point. I'm going to start off by describing our programming scenario and some of the very basics of RadioBoss, and then I'll follow it up with video number 2 or video B, which will go into another feature in detail. Hopefully they will be named so that they are easy to follow if you end up following along. And even better, hopefully somebody that knows RadioBoss better can drop some comments about I'm being an idiot and there's a much better way to do things. But we will see. So here's our programming scenario. We are on the air 24/7. However, there's not a person in the studio 24/7. In fact, there's not necessarily a show on 24/7. Everybody doing a show is a volunteer. So there are certain hours during the day, and most days are fairly loaded from, noon into the late evening hours or close to midnight, where there are shows most to all of the day. But especially in the overnight hours, nobody's there, and so we have to have automated programming keeping us on the air. So we need to set up our platform so that we can program automated playlists that will basically fill up the whole day, so that when somebody produces a copy of their show, like I record mine at home in advance now instead of going into the studio. So I just build an MP3 file of my show, ship it off to the program manager, and he puts it into the playlist. So we have to learn how to do that playlist business differently. So given that the automated software is going to be creating and churning and playing 24/7 automated playlists, we want to be able to load in a show that's going to supersede what's going on in the playlist so the show gets out there. We need to make sure that our station IDs are dropping pretty much precisely at the top of the hour, and probably at the bottom of the hour too, just for good form and good symmetry. However, we also want to pepper in sweepers and some jingles that describe the station more informally. And we have underwriters for our program, right? We're nonprofit, so most of our funding comes from NPR type sponsors, donors, and we don't do commercials, right? So we do this programming is supported by such and such sort of sponsor spots, and so they have to go in. Now, the timing of those more informal things and the sponsor spots can be a little bit more flexible, but the station IDs have to nail the top of the hour as closely as possible. We also will have people going into the studio and doing their show live, so they have to be able to, in real time, suppress what's going on in the playlist and broadcast what they have going on in the studio. So all this stuff works with the previous software we were using and still are at the moment. Cross your fingers. But it's, it's going to go away at any given moment with no warning, most likely, unless we can get RadioBoss nice and set up. So, like I said, I'm going to describe what I'm learning as I'm learning it. I've gotten to the point where I'm fairly established in RadioBoss with the bare bones structure that can keep this running. And so I'm going to describe what I've been doing. So in this first video, now that I've yapped on for 5 minutes maybe, I'm just going to show you how to build some of the architecture and the way I've been doing it for our purposes. And again, I would love to get some feedback about how this is a stupid way to do it, and here's how I should do it otherwise. Okay, so you should be looking at the RadioBoss screen. You'll notice there are some components to it. One component is here on the left, and it has several items in it already. This is the event scheduler. This is where you put in commands that are going to trigger events at specified times of day. So in the time column, which is actually the second one, you can see the times at which I have several tasks or events that are ready to go. The very left-hand column is a countdown for when that item is going to get triggered. And in fact, one of them is theoretically going to get triggered in 2 minutes, because local time here is 3:58 p.m. and this is set to go at 4 p.m. The way I have this so far only requires these few items just to get the automated programming going. And here's how it works in an overview. This very bottom aisle, you can't see the full command name, but I'll show you what it is in more detail in just a little bit. But just trust me, that's the command that fires up a station ID. This event was created to run at the top of the hour and at the bottom of the hour. So basically it was given a time to run the first time and then told to do it every 30 minutes on the dot after that. So at 5 p.m. precisely, in a little over a minute now, this thing is going to fire off a station ID. You're listening to WVLP 103.1 FM, blah, 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 right? The formal thing that's supposed to go out at the top of the hour. I also have 3 commands that are going to automatically generate playlists that are 8 hours long. One from midnight to 8 a.m., the overnight hours. That's where, again, I'm just making this up. This isn't necessarily what's going to go on the station. I'm just trying to use some different scenarios. So in this imaginary radio station, midnight to 8 a.m. is going to be mostly easy listening type music with a little bit of rock thrown in. The next 8-hour programming that would run from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. would still be some easy listening, but we're going to wake people up with a little more rock. And then the third set from 4 p.m. to midnight is going to be rock and hard rock and heavy metal, right, in my imaginary radio station. And you can see that this thing is flashing at me because this station ID at the top of the hour is supposed to run. It just played out of my really crappy computer desktop speakers, so you probably didn't hear it, but you could have seen the waveform bouncing up and down. So there's a jump in the video here because, as I said, I'm learning this stuff. And as I kept going after that previous mark where I've now jumped in again, I realized I was saying stupid things about the playlists. And in fact, my playlist wasn't behaving exactly the way I thought, but I kept talking about it anyway and ended up just saying nonsense. So what I'm doing is hitting rewind in the recording time machine, and I'm going to jump back to that place that I just interrupted, where we were looking at the RadioBoss screen and every half-hour station ID was flashing red because it was about to get triggered, and then it did trigger, and you probably heard it a little bit and saw the waveforms bouncing up and down. There's another item set to trigger, there was, at 4 p.m., now it's a little bit past that, where the next of my 8-hour playlists was supposed to go up. There's a 10-second delay after the top of the hour to make sure that station ID gets in there without interruption. But that playlist C did get triggered. And so now we're just going to pretend like that interruption never happened and keep going. So that playlist is going on in the background. I think I'll dial down the volume just in case it's somehow coming through the system audio or my computer speakers or something. But we just keep it watching going on in the background here. That's fine. So you can see my playlist tracks, and in the next video, I'm going to show you how to set up one of these playlists and set it to trigger on a daily basis. What I want to do here is having I told you the basic flow of this architecture here, which as long as everything's working, I've got a 24/7 automated radio station already running, where I have a station ID at the top of every hour and also every half hour. And then I've got 3 commands that run on a given evening to generate the 3 playlists for the next day. Just call them A, B, and C. And then there are commands that will play each of those playlists at 12 a.m., midnight, at 8 a.m., and then at 4 p.m. And this will just keep cycling over and over and over. So there we go, 24/7 automated programming. Before I hit escape here, what I want to do is just show you the very first thing, which is, again, playlist generation later. The station ID is just one item, right? It's one item picked from a folder, and then it plays. And then we set up parameters to make sure that that happens every 30 minutes. I'm just going to show you how that works. Now, if you were creating one of these events that's brand new, you would click Add. I'm just going to click Edit on this one instead, and it's going to show you some of the things that have already been created for it, but I'll tell you what they are. So first of all, well, you know what the heck? Let's click Add like we're going to do a new one. See how this playlist business is empty? The playlist command is empty, and then there's a lot of other options that we have to take care of. Okay, we'll talk about those. When you're starting fresh, the best thing to do is just click this little microphone button, which is the event scheduler wizard, and there's a lot of things that you can pick from. It might seem like you want to select, for the purposes of a regularly occurring station ID, play a track or playlist. However, for a station ID that's going to be coming up every half an hour, you probably don't want to be playing the same one over and over. So rather what we would do is play a random grab from a folder which has all the station IDs in it. Now, we don't want to play all tracks from the folder. We want to play one track from a folder. So we'd select that, click Next, and then here select one track or playlist from the folder. There we go. This little ... doodle here, that's your typical browser. And so in my directories, here are that's my station ID folder called cleverly Station IDs. And this box right here, there's a couple of different options. You can pick the newest one, the oldest one, or random. I want random. Let's say I've got a folder of 25 station IDs. I just want a random grab every single time. I recommend not clicking delete file from disk after playlist. Okay. Now, if I clicked Next, what that's going to do is launch us back into this event scheduler. But instead of clicking Next and actually making a new one, I'm just going to return to this one and click Edit. So if we had clicked Next, we would see this screen and the command line to go into the Station IDs folder. And here's a command prompt for command line programming that says pick a random one. And then we just set up what we want it to do. So the very first time I set this to run, I just set it to start at 5 p.m. on the day I was doing this. This item is not particularly as important as some of the other things. But let's say I was setting this up yesterday at 3:17 p.m. I'm like, okay, by the time I'm all done with this, let's have it fire up at 5 o'clock as the very first time. And then after that, I've asked it to execute every single day of the week, to repeat every 30 minutes, and that 30 minutes begins from the very first time. So starting at 5 p.m., whatever day was the first day, and every 30 minutes after that, we've got half hour and top of the hour, half hour, top of the hour, over and over and over. The maximum time to wait in the queue down here is, let's say there's a playlist going, if there's a song that's about to finish, but it's got 2.5 minutes left, the station ID doesn't want to wait that long because it has to be really close to the top of the hour. Something else, yeah, maybe it can wait. So what I say is if it's the top of the hour and it's time for a station ID, let's not wait any more than 5 seconds to play this sucker, which means that when it's time to play this, it's going to dial down the playlist, and play the station ID. I had a brain fart there because I was trying to click things at the same time. One of the reasons I stopped the previous version of this video is because I had a couple of things selected that I didn't want to have selected, and that messed it up a little bit. So what I'm doing, I'm going to fix that right now. So the first event at 5 p.m. or whatever it is, but it should be like the top of the hour. And then every day after that, every 30 minutes, no more than 5 seconds after the top of the hour, a random station ID is going to be grabbed and played. I've put a task name in here. You should probably do that for all your items, because when you're looking in the event scheduler window, it's a lot easier to scroll down the name column to get your informal title of what this event is than to hover over the action and try to interpret your command lines that are doing this. Okay, so for this station ID, overlay playback is going to give this precedence over what's going on in the regular playlist, and priority over the relay. This thing is actually coming from the relay that's being controlled by the event scheduler, but I want to make sure that my station ID has priority over everything. So the overlay playback, I've set the playlist level down to 0. And what that does is when it's time for my station ID, according to all the stuff on the left, even if something's going on in the playlist, it's going to dial it down to 0. It's going to play the station ID, and then it's going to restore whatever was playing before. So you may end up with a station ID in the middle of a song, but that's fine. It's automated programming, and it's better than waiting for a song to finish if it has several minutes left to go. You could also pause the playlist, but that would be kind of abrupt, perhaps. And then if you've created a playlist to be 8 hours and you pause it, you know, the station ID is supposedly very, very short, but you have adjusted the overall timing of the playlist, and yeah, maybe that's not this group business. I have no idea what it is. I'm sure I could read the manual and find it out. I haven't found it necessary to go that far yet, but there we go. That's all the information about setting up this one item. And so this could be use if you have station IDs of your own and they have to go at a particular time. This is how you can do it. And then now you see this item at the top here. It's scheduled to go in 18 more minutes. That doesn't this 5 o'clock here, that's not the time that it's scheduled to go next. That was the very first time it was ever given. I actually don't like this column in this second column because it is misleading. Like after this thing runs in 17 minutes, I don't believe that this time item in the second column is going to update to 5:30. That 5 o'clock, I'm pretty sure, is this 5 o'clock right here. And that 5 o'clock doesn't matter anymore because it's just every half an hour on the hour. And every half hour on the hour and at the bottom of the hour. Okay, so this playlist is running. My station IDs are firing up on the top of the hour. When this playlist is done at midnight tonight, the next playlist is going to turn on, and then 8 hours later, the next one's going to play. That tomorrow night, there's going to be 3 new playlists that are generated for the following day, and this is just going to keep going over and over and over. So at this point, we got a radio station. So what I'm going to do in the next video, which hopefully I won't have to go back and re-record any of, like this one, I'm going to talk about what I've done to set up the automatic generation of the playlists and also the actual playing of the playlists. I guess before I quit, I should point out, in case like anybody from actual RadioBoss watches videos about their product. I am running the trial version right now. The radio station does have a licensed version that's installed on the main radio station computer, which I am doing some testing on as well. But this one is my home computer, so I can sit here and be comfy and drink my Starbucks and not have to worry about being in the studio and spilling my coffee all over the soundboard or anything like that. The RadioBoss program they're very generous with their trial runs. This is counting down from 5 hours, which doesn't seem like a lot of time, but you're allowed up to 150 instances of execution of this program, which you can run for 5 hours apiece. So because I just started this a few minutes ago to redo part of the video, it started counting down from 5 hours, and I could keep going for 5 hours just playing playlists, and after 5 hours it's going to shut down. Or I can stop the program and then re-execute the program. Here we go again. We already have the full version of RadioBoss. I don't know if I can use the access code for 2 instances of the program, and I'm not really going to worry about it because eventually I'll be back on the main radio station computer. But see, this trial has now reset itself to a 5-hour countdown, and I've blew past it too fast, but it would have told me that I have like 141 instances left to go under this trial. So up to 150 instances of 5 hours apiece. That is some pretty sweet access just to try this out and learn how to run it before you commit to the whole thing. But like I said, the station's already committed. I've just put this in at home to make my life easier on myself. So you could do that too. All right, I'm going to shut up. I'll make another video maybe tomorrow, and we'll go from there. If you're still here, thanks. And check back. This will be playlist 01 or video 01 in my RadioBoss sequence. And the next one will be, cleverly, 02.